So today, as I was here in the kitchen, um, today is the 1st of May. The last several days, last week, has just kind of slipped away. But I was here in the kitchen making bread, and while I was making bread, I was thinking about the choices I've made in my life, the challenges that I still have, that I still um, find coming up. Um, Now, if you've watched the other videos, you know I am in the midst of um, a PTSD recovery again. So um, the process that I'm using is involving a lot of introspection, um, analysis, self-analysis, and some other things. I'm looking into some healing modalities that might be able to assist me. Um, but as I was making the bread, I was reflecting on the different forms of Christianity that I've explored over this lifetime, and how Christianity overlaps, um, and or rather the common denominators between Christianity, beliefs, ideas, concepts, and other forms of religion across the globe. And for a long time, I subscribed to the philosophy that if we could find every overlap, every common denominator among all of the religions of this planet, we would have absolute truth. And as I'm looking at how that concept, that idea of this overlapping truth always is, it is without change. If a thing is true, it is always true. The rest is subjective. So, or, you know, based upon relevance and preference and all of these other opinion. So, what I was impressed to share today is that, Jesus, we as Christians have been told so little about the life of Jesus, whether intentional or unintentional, whether by design or not. We have been told very little about his life. And what I have learned over the years of my own research, my own seeking, is that he did go to India, he did go to other lands to study their faith concepts, to learn their ways. He was guided to these other lands to tap into, to become Jesus the Christ. What does that mean? He too, even though he was born with less veil, maybe he was born with a greater connection or understanding of the truth of who we are and where we come from. So a lot of that was accessible to him that has been forgotten, that we have not yet remembered. Let us say we have not yet remembered. So he went to these other lands to study and learn. And he did that not to seek approval or authority from those who ended up crucifying him, but he did that for himself, to facilitate his own ability to be the Christ on earth. And, for many of us, he started out with a greater awareness of truth of our divinity. He he didn't have in the lifetime of Jesus the Christ, as we think of it, of him, he didn't have the blockages. He didn't have the what we call forgetting on the level that most of us do and have had to work through. So, and even with his greater awareness, even with his greater knowing, he still went and sought and studied and developed his connection to God to allow that divine force to flow through him to the extent that it did in his physical human form. So as I'm looking at this, while I was making bread and looking at all of the different Christian faiths that I have explored, the different denominations, etc., 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 I am coming to greater understanding of perhaps why things have happened for me, where my more judgments lie. I understand that this recurrence, this what I would call a relapse of PTSD, but it's not really a relapse. They classify it as a recurrence. How it was necessary to bring up these unhealed traumas, these unhealed ideas and thoughts. And also, as it's being told to me, this has occurred to direct my path again, to direct my path. So I am looking into some other forms of healing techniques that I think have great potential and possibility. I am beginning a Reiki course today, which I plan to finish. And when I finish, I will be a certified Reiki master. So I'm starting that today. I am quite a bit into the spiritual life coaching program that I started. I did take a break from that to explore other things, but I'm going to go back to that just to get the certification because, again, here we are still part of this world where if you have the paper, it matters to someone. So I might as well complete that since I've come this far in it. Though I know that I will be making my own way as far as that goes to some degree. Though the information provided in that course helps me to establish my own way. So it's still going to be a benefit. Another technique I find just absolutely intriguing is the spinal flow technique. I did some research and was not able to find out the cost of this training. But because of the position that I'm in, I have reached out to a practitioner who is nearly 2 hours away from me because there aren't many practitioners for this at this time. So I reached out to a practitioner to see if I could schedule a session to go in and actually have this done for me. And in that, I'm sure I will be able to learn more about it. And if it's something that resonates with me that I want to explore, and perhaps I can get more information from the practitioner who has already completed the training. So lots of things going on. Not really anything major other than I spent a great part of the day yesterday listening to the Book of Mastery, which was penned by Paul Selig. And if you have been following any of these videos, you'll know that I hold the texts that Paul brings through to the highest of esteem. I consider them scripture. They are my Bibles, is what I say. They are my version of text, scripture text. And what does that mean? That means they facilitate, they're my doorway to God. They facilitate my connection. And, it doesn't matter what your method is. It doesn't matter. It is all about what helps you to connect with the truth, with the divine that is you, to your greatest potential. And in with that, along that line, I also was shown how we have these ideas, and let's say that. So we'll take the Bible or the Quran or whatever, the Vedas, whatever your religious, whatever you're drawn to. We have this idea that it must look a certain way. We have this idea that here I am. I realize that so much of my life I have devoted or dedicated to being a version of myself that was based on what I thought other people wanted, based on finding favor with others. And even then I didn't do it. I wasn't good at it. And what I mean by that is, even in my people pleasing, even in my trying to assimilate to what I thought others wanted me to be, I still was a nonconformist. So, but I see how I have done things in my life that weren't true to myself, that I was shamed for, that whatever, given labels and criticized and you name it. And that was even when I was trying, efforting to be what I thought they wanted, whoever they is. And I realized that this relapse, this PTSD recurrence, is because, once again, I felt shame around being who I am, felt shame around not fitting in, felt shame around being perceived as different, and all these things. So in looking at that, and even today, I have dedicated myself, I have committed to being the Christ on earth to the best of my ability. Now, the mind wants to say, this is what that looks like. The mind wants to give me a description, a picture, a blueprint of how I am to be, what I am to say, how I am to conduct myself. And again, the image I am to portray as that, because that is the way we have been trained here on this planet. Is, somebody else says this is what a thing should be, and we all acquiesce, which is the word that Spirit has been giving me a lot lately. So, but in truth, we are all the expression of God here, to whatever degree we allow. So, and there are those who say, well, how can you say that we're the expression of God when, This person is being utterly horrible to me or to that person or whatever. Because we have free will, and free will says you are divine in your essence. You are divine at your core, your nature. The truth of you is divinity. The truth of you is you are the child of God, the substance of the one, all creator. What you choose to do with that is your free will. So just because a person is being some kind of way, we must understand that it's through the eyes that we see. Are we seeing with the eyes of Christ when we gaze upon that person? Which means, are we seeing the total truth of it? Or are we passing judgment, right? The other thing is, they are allowing as much of that energy to come through them as they are able. We all have these life experiences. We all have many things that are in our energetic field that inform and influence all aspects of our daily activity. And I'm speaking now about the PTSD that challenges me. And that came from a multitude of traumatic experiences that compiled to become what is called post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, if it had been one thing, it may not have affected my daily activity. If it had been two things, it still may not have affected my daily activity. But what happens is everything compiles and it becomes much more complex. They call it complex trauma when you have multiple traumatic experiences. And I have, over the years, I have come to understand that it is all connected to shame, guilt, fear. Fear is at the core of all of it, and it is what it is. It is fear. It is fear of being judged. It is fear of being seen as different. It is fear of not fitting in. It is fear of being alone. It is all fear compiled. But in the daily activities, it shows up as all kinds of things. It shows up as stress. It shows up as anxiety. It shows up as panic. It shows up as irritability. It can show up as irritability. It can show up as a lack of focus, ADHD. All of these things it can show up as. Now, what that is someone can see me. I'll use myself as an example. On the days when I have less tolerance and less patience, or I'm not focused. Okay, let's go there because that's easier for me. So if someone sees me on a day when I don't have a lot of concentration, when my focus isn't good, and that is because of all of these other things that they don't know. They could pass judgment and create assumptions about who I am based on what they see. And on a specific day, a particular day, I may not be able to hold attention with another person or be as giving as I can be. And if they don't know me, they can assume all kinds of things about that. So as I'm looking at this, and Spirit's telling me, in your world, you have ideas about what a thing should look like and how it should present itself. And using my experience as an example of how erroneous this can be. Like my fear of the intense fear is it's twofold for me, because I don't like to make others uncomfortable, and yet I want more than anything to serve my God, right? To serve the source of all, to serve love, to serve Christ. And I have accepted that that is what I choose above all, is to serve, to be the servant of Christ here, to be the expression of God to the best of my ability. The downside to that is others see something that they are frightened of or don't understand, or they see something that's different or threatening in some way. For any of you who see this, who have the impression that you are a mirror, because I used to say that I'm a mirror. So and A Course in Miracles teaches that we all are that. We just don't, many of us don't know it. So we're a mirror to our brother. So what I found over the years was I would bring up in people things that they didn't like about themselves, and then that made them feel some kind of way toward me. Yes. Many times I've said I have the ability to bring out the worst in someone. But and unfortunately, I don't always have the strength to cope with that, the retaliation that ensues. So some of us are button pushers. Even if we're not trying to push buttons, we're button pushers. And Spirit would say, but that's necessary. It's necessary to give your brother the opportunity to see this within themselves, to heal it within themselves. And by healing themselves, they heal the world. And that's true. So I'm in this dilemma position where I'm trying to find my way to survive in this world and still do the work that I want to do, which is to be the expression of God here, and at the same time be able to be happy and not feel afraid. And how do I do that and still be authentic to myself? To not have to hide my light under a bushel, as they say, because who I am is not socially acceptable. It's not. So I'm still navigating this recovery from this episode of PTSD recurrence. Still trying to find my way, and lots of things are being shown to me that I'm trying to work through, trying to accept, trying to hash out. But I'm doing well. I'm well. I'm not, I'm functioning. God is. I know this is happening for me, not to me. I know that this experience is bringing me closer to God, to the truth. I know that this has the ability to allow more of divine energy to flow through this body. I know that the possibility is there that this experience is going to guide me to my greatest happiness, to the best life I can live here. I have that faith. I struggle with the strength. I struggle with having enough strength to stay in it. But I have no choice because there's nowhere else for me to go. And I think that's one of the biggest problems I see. And again, I'm seeing it as a problem, but I can't, there's nowhere else for me to go. I have already made the choice. And so having made the choice, I'm moving forward, either inching or by leaps and bounds, but I'm going in that direction. And I can't turn back. So there kind of is a part of me that's resisting, only because I don't like feeling like I'm not in control, and that's another thing with the traumatic experience. We like to be in control of everything. And I don't want to say that I'm a victim and that I'm not in control, but the aspects of me that are resisting are having huge issues with not being in control of the situation. Even though the one who is in control and the one who is calling it all into being is my greater self, my true self, who knows what I need in every moment. The resistance is coming from my identity self, my ego, people call it, my personality structure, which is very much human and very fearful. I just heard by design. I wouldn't say it was fearful by design if I were going to say it. I would say has become fearful based on experiences of pain and hurt and disappointment and guilt and shame and all of these things. So human beings are not fearful by design, though there have been things that happened, whether intentional or not, and some of them were intentional. And I guess that's where Spirit's coming from when it says by design, because yes, there were things that have happened and things that were done to cause us intentionally with the goal of making us fearful, with the goal of controlling us, with the goal of creating a submissive race and dividing and conquering from within. That all happened. It happened. So, I just wanted to say, even though I don't want to say that we are fearful by design, because the design that is the perfect human form is not fearful. It has a personality structure that has a mechanism built in it to keep us safe because there are lots of ways to be harmed on our planet. So it was necessary. But it has throughout these experiences, and I would say time, within the construct of time, has become much more fearful than it was designed to be. That's what I would say. It has a mechanism built in to protect the form, the body, which is necessary in an environment where things can happen, But that mechanism, that fight, flight, freeze, has become out of control for some of us. I would say for a lot of us. And I'm working through that now. Hopefully, yes, I know. I said hopefully, but Spirit chimed in right away and said, no, definitely, for the greater good, for the greater good. So if I can rise above this, if I can work through this, It's possible for everyone. It's possible for everyone. If I work through this, if I can find my way, if I can create that ideal life for myself, it is then possible for everyone else to do the same, no matter what challenges they have. So that is where I am today. I hope this message finds you well. I hope it is a beautiful day here. I hope it is where you are. Much love, much love. I feel, and I'm extending to you wherever you are. In peace and in love, may you be blessed.